many years ago, I was fortunate enough to find myself in a unique initiative, government initiative, to provide support groups for postnatal depression groups in men.
Oh, wow.
Often stuff that is not looked at, yeah, because mom definitely hormonally and otherwise can experience that. Dad gets super anxious being in the provider role and all that kind of stuff. And now you have these two highly aggravated emotional systems trying to raise a child. And I thought about that limbic system of ours, the fight or flight response again comes up for me, the amygdala hijack, as we call it. And I go back in history and in evolution, and I go back to cave days, and I'm thinking about a crying baby and how much it represented the threat to the whole tribe, calling all the predators around in the middle of the night, crying in a cave, and how we get triggered with fight, flight, freeze. And as you know, it hijacks the brain. That's why we call it the amygdala hijack. So the ability to think straight is gone. And indeed, that aggression, by the way, you see it the same in airplanes. Yeah? When we're feeling trapped in a little cave and a baby suddenly starts to scream, how uncomfortable, to say the least, everyone gets. And the number of parents who told me the same is remarkable. You know, like the guilt and the shame from being able to shake the baby and go, shut up already. And when you add it up to 3 sleepless nights, tensions with your wife, and so many other things, perhaps a few more kids, like let's try 7, running around, and you go, of course, there's a recipe here that activates that limbic system and that amygdala all the time, and that's where we respond from. Now, if I add on to that an already traumatized individual who has chronically activated their amygdala, the neuroplasticity over there is vast and active and chronically inflamed, then you can see very easily why some parents will tend to respond more aggressively than others. And perhaps here too, gender does count. You know, the way our brains are wired slightly different, and the limbic system in women and their ability to nurture, to hold space, to comfort is perhaps very different to the hunter.
Mm, yeah.
But in modern days, we want the man to do a bit more of the feminine kind of sharing of the load. And so we try our best to be loving, caring husbands, completely hijacked by our own biology and becoming quite aggressive. And indeed facilitates a lot of shame and guilt, almost like activating the trauma, the sense of inadequacy in me.
I had a good conversation with a friend of mine the other day. He's actually a counselor. I was making, I think it was a mistake of giving too much time to my child, because I've got a business that requires a lot of my time. And I've always feel pulled between my 2 babies, my business and my daughter.
You go hunting.
Yeah, I'm meant to go hunting. And then I'm like, well, I want to support my partner because I see the heavy load that the woman has, the mother, 24/7. I'm like, well, every chance I get, I want to go relieve her stress but also be with my daughter. And I was overcompensating by being too much in that role of child nurturer and carer. When I say too much, I was feeling anxious and agitated because it was pulling time from my business. And my role as a father is to make sure I can provide safety, security, and protection for my partner, for the whole family. And I was getting really agitated, and I spoke to my friend Andrew. He said to me, it was great, he says, your child doesn't need 2 mothers. She needs a mother and a father.
Yeah.
And the mother's the primary nurturer. That doesn't mean you can't nurture.
Yes.
And you're a natural nurturer. But you need to be providing, and that ought to be your priority. And so that helped me not feel guilty for spending more time at my desk.
Yes.
And so that was to bring some balance to that. It was useful.
And if you look at the different energies we emit, right? For us to raise a resilient child is often to send out Like, go and face life's challenges. Whereas mothers are really wired into their sense of providing safety is to collect back and hug and nurture and avoid danger.
Yeah.
Mama goose. And so, and how many times you see that tension between couples, right? The child falls, mom goes and runs and wants to protect the child, and dad goes, "Come on, leave it alone. It's nothing. He needs to learn. They need to learn." You know, like, and then they start fighting at each other as if they're meant to have the same type of framework for parenthood. And I know these are very confusing times with gender identities, but in all fairness, both are necessary. Both of these energies are very necessary
Yeah.
to raise a human being that can protect themselves and survive.
Yeah. We don't prepare them for life by wrapping them up in cotton wool.
No. And that's also, so that links to, you know, going back to being raised with trauma. How do you see this, you know, the impact on you and your life? And how do you see suffering playing a role in you becoming who you are today?